You own a Pan-African business magazine brand, Business Elite Africa. What inspired you to start the publication?
Well, I would say I've been in the magazine publication for probably a few years now, since 2010. The brand actually started in Jacksonville, Florida, and we expanded into so many states in the United States before I decided to bring the publication into Africa. When I made that choice, my concern was actually looking for business publications that are really magazine, tailored, not just newspapers. And in Africa, there was no way to showcase SMEs or I would say highlights the progress that small and emerging, businesses were making in Africa. And what's my dream to, give them a voice to give them a voice and push them out there. And that was why.
How was the experience being for you living in the US and running several businesses here in Nigeria?
Well, it's beyond two different spaces. I have several other businesses that are in different industries. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and it's not about space, it's not about where. My thing is, if you have the right business metrics or if you have the right business methodology and test it in the market, if it works, it works. So it's been, you have the time differences, but running a business in the US and running it in Nigeria or Africa, there's a little difference, in the way people perceive or the culture of the people, but overall, the methodology is actually the same across the board.
According to the 2020 data, Nigeria recorded 61% startup failure rates in 9 years. That is from 2010 to 2018. So the question is, why do you think small businesses are failing in Africa?
Well, again, when you look at the continental divides and look at the problem that businesses are facing in Nigeria, I would say in the continent of Africa, the problem, are enormous. Beyond just capital, then the wherewithal. Then you also talk about, finance. But beyond the finance, the capital, and the experience factor, you have a lot of issues. The government support is lacking. Just like in other countries of the world where government, through the Small Business Administration, lends support to small and emerging businesses to help them stand, that is actually lacking in Africa as a whole. Then you also have the absence of business incubators. You have startups that are not ready, to go out in the market. Then you have people that are starting companies or starting, launching products without really doing their research or doing their due diligence to understand if the need actually is there, and also understanding the size of the needs. If you don't do this and venture into it, there's always a problem. Yes, we know there's a capital issues, then, you have the COVID issues as well that you have to, also address. You're looking at, some of these startups actually depending on, companies, organizations overseas, maybe from China, to supply their products. And with the advent of COVID, a lot of that changed because factories were shutting down. So that affected the demand, the supply and the demand actually, so that actually made or led to that increase in that failure that you're talking about.
How do we prevent further failures of startups on the continent?
Well, there's always going to be failures of startups, and there's no way to bootstrap it. There's no way to, I would say, shield companies from failures. It's a game, or it's the survival of the fit, right? So the companies that survive are the companies of the future, companies that actually are very proactive and companies that are very dynamic, right? So these companies actually, they think about the needs, before venturing into the market. They also measure the size of the needs before venturing out. So these are the companies that will survive. So when you have these entities that are out there that, are launching startups and going out there, the best thing for them to do is actually do their research right and also make sure too that they have the right resources. And resources are these advisors that I'm talking about. You have to have the right accountant, you have to have the right consultant, you have to also start right. So starting right is you need to be able to forecast your cash needs and not venture out, without knowing your cash need. You need to know the size of your market, and you also need to know how to understand the needs of the market. If you don't provide a product that the market needs, is always going to be a problem. So what my advice would be to help shield some of these startups, from failures would be, you really, have to do your groundwork. You really need to make sure that you understand the concept of people process mapping. That means making sure that, one, the needs that you're trying to provide, that the product is right, and the people process mapping that comes in making sure that you have the right people doing the right thing.
As someone who is familiar to the US business landscape, what would you say is missing in the African SMEs ecosystem if you compare it to the US?
Well, I would say it's the size of the market, right? So you have a different mindset. So beyond that, you have the government, intervention, what the government actually provides to make the business landscape, very conducive for businesses in the U.S. Then there's so many factors that you can name. A typical problem in Nigeria is the power failures, the increase in costs, then the lack of qualified, skills. I would say is a major problem, but you can't, if you take a good gun and give it or put it in the hands of the wrong person, a good gun is useless, right? So you have to put a good gun in the hand of the right person, right? Yeah. So you can have a good strategy. It takes people to implement strategy. It takes people to implement process. So when the people that you're expecting to implement processes are not rightly skilled, there's going to be a problem there. So there's I would say, an element of skills deficiency, in the market. And that skills deficiency is a big problem that has to be addressed beyond what the government can do. And the government is completely absent in the life of SMEs in Africa, or I would say, if I'm going to be precise, in Nigeria. The government is not playing enough role. The government is not providing incubators that will help, brush up, startups or give them the resources they need. And then you're talking about lack of a credit system. It takes a lot to get a bank loan or get capital here to start business. And two, the process or the conditions or the culture here is completely unfavorable to small businesses, where you have to pay a year of rent up front before you can secure an office. Then when you secure an office, you have problems of power, you have problems of labor supply, you have all that means is enormous. So that is a big problem, and that draws that complete difference between what the U.S. experience is and what the typical entrepreneur will experience operating in the system called Nigeria.
Is this why you often empower young people in Africa?
Well, I believe that, again, this generation of these youths will definitely be they will be the future. For me, it makes sense for me to invest in the youths, because this will be the future of our generation, of a country called Nigeria. If you don't empower the youths, if you don't give them access to to learn that new talent or improve themselves, then there's no future for us. So there's a scarcity of the right employment type. There's a scarcity of the right skill set in the system already. So the best thing for us to do is to bring everything into the system to help the youths actually prosper, and that is why I'm interested in it.
What would you say are the must-have habits every young entrepreneur should cultivate?
Well, the grit is a big thing. People talk about passion. Before passion, there's all the factors that you have to look at. So for you to be successful, one, you have to play the right game, and you have to play in the right system. What I mean by playing the right game is make sure you're offering the right product to the right people that needs the product. And also make sure that the how of the offering, is right. So what I mean by the how, you must have a game plan, you must have a roadmap, to that product offering. That's a big thing there. So then you talk about perseverance. Nothing comes easy. The problem in this part of the world too, that people want things overnight. Nothing happens overnight. When you see someone successful, if you take your time to look at the person or study their past, you see the person actually started years back. You see that it's not something that happened overnight. So the problem in this part of the world is that people don't want to invest the time. They don't want to weather the storm. They don't want to wait to see things actually, manifest. So people want it overnight, but good success or long-lasting success doesn't happen overnight. It takes time for you to breed it.